So excited to be here, y'all. So I'm from Denton, Texas, and I was raised in the church, and from pretty much the day that I was born, we were serving on Sundays. We were at Wednesday night Bible studies, and I was baptized when I was about 7. And from that point, I would have told you that I was Christian, that I believed in Jesus, and I believed that he died for my sins. But I really just thought that my faith was a ticket to heaven. And so when I got to high school, I was really searching for who I was and for who I was going to be. I was searching for where I could go to find happiness. And this was the point where I really started to play volleyball in high school and in club. And there was a lot of success in that area. And so I really thought that I had found it. I thought that I had found who I was going to be, and I was going to be known as this really cool volleyball player. But little did I know that I just had a heart full of pride and that it was leading to temporary happiness. Because later in my junior year of high school, I tore my labrum, and so I had to have surgery, which means 6 months of no volleyball. And so I was lost. This main part of my identity that made me who I was completely gone. I didn't know who I was, so now my relationships are falling apart because I couldn't serve them if I didn't love myself. And as well as my dad, and that was one of the biggest parts for me, was even going home no longer felt like home. And so all these things that I depended on were just completely gone. I always felt like woe is me, and I, looking back on it, very much so fell into this state of depression. Every day I woke up just wondering what the point of life was because I didn't know who I was and what I was doing here until Jesus pulled me out of it. Psalm 40, verse 2 says, "He lifted me up from a pit of despair, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet upon a rock and gave me a firm place to stand." I was shown that he was in that pit with me the whole time holding my hand. I just never wanted to see it because I wanted to see my own pain. Jesus' same hand that comforted me and gave me the strength to get through that season was the same hand that pulled me out of it. And I quickly realized that my strength and these temporary sources of happiness could only take me so far and would ultimately lead me to a path of destruction. Later that semester is when I went to Passion. And I witnessed genuine worship and genuine teaching that lives not just for salvation, but for true joy and freedom that Jesus provides today. That joy and freedom comes not from living life with a hand that's clenched onto control and onto glory, but is set open on the table and is ready to receive all that God has for you. This freedom isn't a ticket to an easy life, though. But it's freedom from carrying the burdens that the enemy tries to throw at you, because it's knowing that that burden died on the cross with our Jesus. And since then, like I said, life hasn't been easier. I went to college playing volleyball and ended up in a medical retirement for a year and a half. So double what it was, triple what it was the first time I wasn't playing volleyball. But what Jesus says about that story is it isn't over, because his story didn't end in the grave. Jesus says that freedom comes in knowing that he suffered much worse so that I can live freely. He said the story wasn't done, so it wasn't. He brought me back to the sport where I get the honor of playing in this amazing arena every week solely to bring glory to him. But being here is not because of my strength or anything to do with me, but solely because of his. When she said number 37, I'm sure all of y'all wondered why, because no volleyball player wears number 37. But Luke 1:37 says that nothing is impossible with God. He gave me this sport not to play as a volleyball player, but to play as a daughter of the King. That is who I am, and that is my actual identity. So for those of you guys who are sitting in your seat, feeling lost, stuck, or discouraged, I've been there, and I want to remind you that Jesus doesn't just offer a way out, but he offers a completely new life. I encourage you to accept the entirety of what he is offering you right now, today, in your seat. He wants to give you real freedom, unshakable peace, and a joy that surpasses all understanding. My challenge to you is to not settle for just knowing Jesus, but to walk with him. Let him into every single part of your life, because when you do, you'll find that freedom that doesn't just change you for a moment, but it changes you for all of eternity. Thank y'all, Breakaway.